Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the live Q&A with me, Professor Michael Scott. It is Thursday, the 17th of October. I hope you've been having an absolutely fantastic week and keeping up with the breathtaking and breakneck speed of Brexit negotiations. I just had a peep through on the phone saying that some sort of Brexit deal seems to be on the horizon, so who knows what might happen in the next couple of days. I hope you've got your seatbelts on for what will be, no doubt, a very, very busy and somewhat entertaining, if it wasn't all quite so serious, weekend. Hello, Alexis. Hello, Fiona. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. It's great that you could join me. I'm coming live from the University of Warwick, from my office here, where I've just been teaching here at the university this afternoon. I had our Introduction to Greek and Roman History session with the first years, and we've been looking at particularly the 7th and the 6th centuries BCE and the development of different kinds of political structures and options for the different Greek city-states within the 6th century BCE, everything from tyranny, kingship to oligarchy, and even some forms of proto-democracy, or, of course, a mix of all of those. Hello, Sarah. Hello, Debbie. Hello, Rosie. Thank you so much indeed for tuning in. And you guys have been sending in some absolutely fantastic questions, as always. And we're going to kick off with one that actually came in live last time over the FaceTime, the Facebook screen, but I wasn't able to answer it at the time. Hello, Glees. Hello, Anna. How are you doing? And that was from Carrie Blount, who asked this. Her son loves ancient history, but is not looking forward to the next topic that they are studying, which is Cleopatra. He would have preferred, supposedly, the Punic Wars. Kind of any exciting thoughts to share about Cleopatra to get him interested from Carrie? Well, thank you very much indeed for that. Well, it sounds great that your son is so interested in ancient history that he has a particular preference for the kinds of ancient history that he would like to be studying. And of course, the Punic Wars are all good, with the thirsty bloodshed and ongoing kind of hammering between two great empires, the Carthaginians and the Romans, as they battle it out for supremacy of the western and central parts of the Mediterranean. And of course, there's, I can understand his passion for the Punic Wars, because there's been recently particularly some really interesting archaeological finds from a lot of the investigation that's been going on of the seabed around the north coast of Sicily, so around the Egadi Islands, where there was a particular battle between the Carthaginians and the Romans, and they've actually been plucking out of the sea the helmets of some of the Roman soldiers that would have been on board those ships, waiting to board the enemy ship and go hand-to-hand combat, but perhaps never got the chance because their ships sank to the bottom. So they've been pulling out of the sea the very physical remnants of those great battles. Anna, infamy, they've all got it, infamy. Yes, of course. If you're going to get Cleopatra, though, on the books, the best starting point, I think Anna is absolutely right, is Carry On Cleo. So I'm a massive Carry On fan. I grew up watching Carry On films endlessly from back to back, and of course, a kind of Carry On Cleo was one of their best, with Kenneth Williams playing Julius Caesar. Infamy. They've all got it. Infamy with Sid James as Mark Antony. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, Judith. Good afternoon, James. So definitely, to get your son, Carrie, interested in Cleopatra, dig out a YouTube version or a DVD somewhere of Carry On Cleo, and sit down and watch that. Absolutely. But how can we get Cleopatra kind of make her part of something more interesting? Now, I think part of the reason your son might be less interested in Cleopatra is because she can feel a bit like a pawn. Kind of one of the very typical ways in which, particularly the sort of sources and the more recent, the more modern scholarship, not the most recent scholarship, but the more modern scholarship, has tended to sort of portray her as this sort of pawn caught between different men and a man-made world. Now, obviously, it was, to a great extent, a man-made world, but I think we need to imbue Cleopatra with a bit more agency that she actually had in antiquity. I mean, when you think about it, and you have to think about it as a Greek, to a second, because she is the last of the Ptolemaic rulers of Egypt. So we go back, Cleopatra is in a direct line of Ptolemaic rulers that go back all the way to Ptolemy, who was one of the generals of Alexander the Great. And when Alexander the Great died and his empire was split up in the 4th century BCE, Ptolemy, one of his generals, land grabbed most of Egypt, and he started the Ptolemaic dynasty. And it was also Ptolemy who nicked the body of Alexander the Great and brought that body body to Alexandria, one of the cities founded by Alexander the Great, and buried him there, although his body has since been lost. We're not sure where it is now. So Cleopatra was in fact the last descendant of that Ptolemaic rule before the Romans took over. And in Carry On Cleo, and in other representations, she's this sort of beautiful thing that people kind of fall at the feet at, particularly Julius Caesar and then Mark Antony. But actually, when you go back to the sources, the ancient sources don't actually talk so much about her being just a stunning beauty. What they talk about is actually her being a kind of magnetic, sort of all-engrossing personality with an incredible skill set. She was incredibly skilled, multiple languages, brilliant at all sorts of things, that she was, people fell in love with her because of that fully rounded set of characteristics and skills that she sort of had at her fingertips, at her disposal, and it was that made her such a kind of someone that could not be resisted in many ways. Now, I think the Roman sources kind of do her down as a result. Obviously, she leads astray, supposedly, great Roman rulers, and as a result, she doesn't get a very fair hearing in the Roman sources. But I think we should put her back in place as a woman from a very long and successful lineage, ruling in a world that's in a period of complete change. This is the moment when the Mediterranean goes from a multipolarity in which there are multiple different communities, all with their spheres of interest and power, and it goes from that multipolarity to a unipolarity. Rome basically takes over. So the Mediterranean hadn't seen that kind of change for a good couple of 100 years, and as a result, here is a woman trying her best to ride that very, very kind of unpredictable storm of change, and to kind of fight for her Egypt and her corner within that. And she's doing that with all of the kind of the armory of weapons at her disposal, which includes herself and her skill and as an individual. So that, I think, kind of that view of Cleopatra could perhaps make a bit more of an inspiring character than she's occasionally put across in the sources. Hello, Sarah. It's always the woman's fault. Well, according to the Roman sources, yes, at least. Now, it's good that men have strong women leaders as role models, says Linda. Absolutely. Kind of, there we go. Let's have a think about Cleopatra as an inspiring ruler who was doing an extraordinary job, not only holding her Egypt together, but actually trying to kind of find a place for Egypt in the changing wider political climate. Donald says, I wish I knew enough to ask a sensible question. Don't ask a sensible question, Donald. Come on with any question. That's the joy of these Q&As. Any question is a very welcome question, and occasionally, don't tell anyone, the less sensible, the better. So, Carrie, I hope that kind of gets your son a little bit more inspired to think a little bit more deeply about what Cleopatra might be for him and for his study of ancient history. Sarah Scotty has also came over with a question that was live from last time that I didn't have a chance to answer, which was any connections. We were talking about Amazonian women, kind of famous female characters and warriors of antiquity, and she asked whether there was any connection between Amazon women and the modern day Amazon River, and yes, there is. In fact, the Amazon was given its name by Francisco de Orellana when he was investigating and exploring the Amazon, the first Westerner to do so, and he supposedly reports that they were confronted with bands of aggressive female warriors who he thought, because of course he had a good classical education, kind of resembled the Amazons, so he named the river the Amazon. There we go. So Greek mythology spreads all the way across to South America. Sarah, thank you very much indeed for bringing that in. Sad end from Fiona. Yes, possibly arrogant, delusional maybe from Cleopatra. Yeah, you kind of think, one of the famous end points of Cleopatra, or where the Roman sources put it, that she sort of turns tail and leaves Mark Antony on the battlefield and heads off to Egypt as fast as she possibly can, where he then kind of follows her and they both end up supposedly committing suicide. There's some suggestion in the sources that was part of a miscommunication between the Egyptian ships and the Mark Antony ships and the Roman ships, that there was a miscommunication, misunderstanding about what one should do, given how the battle unfolds. So again, she kind of, even at the end, she gets a sort of an unfair telling, I think, within the Roman sources. So good old Cleopatra, let's rehabilitate her as a character, but also let's not forget Carry On Cleo. And of course, if you you get into the different film representations, then Elizabeth Taylor as well, kind of you have to see her as a different kind of Cleopatra. So thank you, Sarah, for your question as well. So new questions that have come in. Anna, you never ask sensible questions. Well, I think you do. I'm utterly sure you do. But we're very, very happy to have all types of questions that come here. And Ben, age 9, from Wimbledon, has been in touch. And he's asking in relation to his homework project. So Ben, if you're listening from Wimbledon, although 4:10, so you should just about have finished school by now. For your homework project, what is your favourite ancient Greek monument, he asks, and how has ancient Greek architecture influenced our lives today? Well, this is quite a homework project, Ben. I like it. So question out to you all, what is your favourite ancient Greek monument? Let's kind of get a poll going. Perhaps we'll put this up on the Facebook page. What's your favourite ancient Greek monument? Mine, how to choose my favourite ancient Greek monument. I do have a soft spot for the Lysicrates Choragic monument in Athens, and we'll come back to talk about that in a second because it's one of the earliest examples of Corinthian architecture surviving. Corinthian columns as well, particularly surviving. But that is a small little round building that was actually put up as a monument in the 4th century BCE in Athens as a memorial to the victory in the dramatic contest in the Dionysia by Lysicrates. So kind of I quite like that as an individual wanting to go, yar shucks boo, I won, and I want everyone to remember it. But kind of what do you have as your favourite monument? The Delphi, I guess, but is that as a site? Yeah, but what about a favourite Greek, an individual monument? Knossos, says Anna, as palace, individual monument, individual temple perhaps, or a building, or a sculpture. Some of the extraordinary sculptures in the Athens Museum, perhaps. Favourite ancient Greek monument? Rhamnous Temple. Ooh, nice one from Hannah. Thank you. Yeah, Rhamnous is a fantastic site, and in fact, we had a question in from, hang on, we can add this in. Let me move smoothly, effortlessly forward to a question from Elizabeth Fordyce in the USA, who is off to the Mediterranean in December and will be in Athens for a couple of days. She's looking for some ideas on what to see. They've been before, they've done a number of the unusual touristy things, so they're asking for suggestions of where to go. Unusual, slightly off the beaten track, slightly deeper places to go in and around Athens. And Rhamnous, if you haven't been, Elizabeth, would be one of my suggestions. Absolutely. It's a day trip out of Athens, but it's an extraordinary site, always quiet and relaxed, but you get to see an entire kind of Greek encampment, if you like, with the walls still there in a beautiful landscape setting. Also Thorikos, if you've got some time to get outside of Athens as well, to go and see the theatre, one of the earliest surviving stone theatre in Attica, there we go, over at Thorikos, and also all the silver mines that are there, but be wary, don't go climbing into those silver mine caves, you may never be seen again. I almost got lost several times in there. Delphi, as a whole, Glee says, is your favourite ancient Greek monument. Where else would you guys send Elizabeth in Athens as well? So we've got Rhamnous, we've got Thorikos. I would say, if you haven't been, the Epigraphic Museum. Now, I recommend this to all my students, and 2 of my students actually went out to Athens this past summer, and they went to the Epigraphic Museum, and the thing that I promised them would happen did happen, which is there are so few visitors to the Epigraphic Museum in Athens, and epigraphic means in things written on stone, effectively, so it's all the stone inscriptions. It's an entire museum dedicated to the stone inscriptions, the laws, the decrees, the historical records that ancient Athens produced, and the Epigraphic Museum is a little side museum, totally separate from the main National Archaeological Museum in Athens, but it's just sort of tucked around the corner. And the Epigraphic Museum gets so few visitors that when you turn up, you often have to ask them to turn on the lights. And this happened to the students that went out there this summer, kind of at my suggestion, and they got there and they turned on the lights. The staff were so pleased to see them, and they'd be very pleased to see you as well. They turned on the lights, and you get to explore the treasure trove of inscriptions relating that kind of really are the fantastic documents created of the moment by the ancient Athenians as they were deciding their laws and decrees and responses to different things. They wrote all these texts up on stone, and they would have been surrounded by them within their cityscape. So the Epigraphic Museum, go there and get them to turn on the lights for you. Equally, the Punic Museum I think is absolutely brilliant for other periods of Greek history other than the ancient, and also Athens' Islamic Museum as well, kind of really worth kind of going to have a look at. So kind of there are some great suggestions from me from Athens. Hello from rainy New York, says Trisha. Hello. Well, we've actually, fingers crossed, got some sunshine here for once, although we've had the worst rain kind of, I think it's come your way, Trisha, so apologies for that. Maria says the Charioteer is what her favourite ancient Greek monument. That's a good choice. The Delphi Charioteer with that incredible incised, the eyes that do stare at you, and the beautiful bits of silver to bring out the teeth, and the eyelashes and the precious stones just to make it glint kind of absolutely brilliantly. Rodrigo, you're off to visiting Lebanon, you lucky devil. Absolutely amazing sites to visit there. And Maria, and the Tomb of Philip up in Macedon as well. Another really good one. You'll feel like you're standing in front of something extraordinary while you stand there buried deep in the earth of the tomb of Vergina in northern Greece. Absolutely great one. So let us know your suggestions about where you like to go when you're in Athens. We can pass on to Elizabeth for her trip, and also Ben for his homework project. Ben, you need to tell us what your favourite ancient Greek monument is as well. I would love to know. And how has ancient Greek architecture influenced our lives today is your second question. Well, that is a big question. I mean, obviously, many of the orders of ancient Greek architecture, so we'll talk about this in a second, the Doric, the Ionic, Corinthian, get copied into Roman architecture, and then they are kind of taken up again, particularly in the West, but not just in the West, in the construction of buildings. So you only need to look at a building like the British Museum, and you'll see the kind of influence of ancient architecture on our world today. In the States as well, great period of museum building, all copy that kind of style. Think about the White House with its colonnade at the front. But how has it influenced our lives today? That's a really kind of tough one to think about. How has it changed the nature of the way we do things? And I think it's interesting that ancient architecture has sort of been associated with lots of different ideas, Ben, at different points in time. So when they were building like crazy, kind of particularly in the 19th century and early 20th century, kind of Greek architecture was the architecture of democracy. Kind of the ancient Greece, ancient Athens, world's first democracy, something that the West was really kind of aligning itself with in that period. And so to build in that style was associated with kind of democracy and democratic values. But there has been a kind of riposte against that, particularly in the States, whereby those kind of heavy, classical, traditional architectures now are felt often to put off large segments of the population who don't feel that it speaks to them, that such a building built in that style would actually welcome them. And so the kind of new language, architectural language of democracy and equality is glass and steel. Kind of transparent, see-through, and you can imagine that. You think about the new Acropolis Museum as well, kind of being built in glass and steel in the same way. So kind of the kind of the meanings and influences of the different architectures change over time as we choose to ascribe different kinds of meaning to it. I think columns, as Roger. And amphitheatres, were they first built by the Greeks? So the first stone theatre surviving is at Thorokos, and that's in the 6th century. Now, depending on what we mean by an amphitheatre, that's where we start to see them emerging. Whether earlier civilizations had things that we might want to consider them working in the same way as theatres and amphitheatres. Yes, sure, but kind of were they hosting what we think of as those same kind of dramatic competitions? Were they associated with Dionysus? No, that's where we see them at Thorokos for the first time. So thank you so much, Ben, aged 9, for your question. And if we can get in another age 9er, William Robson, lovely to see. And it was your birthday on Tuesday, so happy birthday, William. Congratulations to you, 9, proud 9, and you have been watching Horrible Histories Groovy Greeks. Now, of course, we didn't. This is Horrible Histories Groovy Greeks is very close to my heart, and this is where I started. And William's question is about Diogenes the Cynic. So, Diogenes, did he really live in a barrel? Well, William, so Diogenes the Cynic is a fabulous character of 4th century BC Greece, and he's a philosopher. Kind of founder of a school of the Cynics, right? And as you kind of might imagine, this is a school of philosophy that says There are all rules, all traditions. They're all culturally constructed. There's no kind of absolutely written in the ground right and wrong. Everything is created out of our kind of relative senses that we grow up with in different cultures and traditions, which I think we'd have quite a lot of sympathy with to a certain extent now. But it was pretty, in Athens in the 4th century, it was pretty kind of new and kind of sort of shocking stuff. And to prove his point, so William, aged 9, asks, did he really live in a barrel? And in the video, it also shows him weeing on people who he didn't like. So, did he do that? Well, William, Diogenes not only lived in a barrel, kind of, and there's some famous pictures kind of painted of him living in a barrel to sort of eschew the fact you didn't need to live in a house, kind of, or anything like that. Did he wee on people that he didn't like? Yes, he did. He did. To show that there really were no rules that couldn't be broken, he would also poo. He would poo, kind of in public places, right? Kind of not in the public urinals either. We're talking in the agora, we're talking in the theatre. He would poo, and he would do worse than that. But I can't possibly mention that before the watershed on a live Q&A. Happy birthday, William from Fiona. Love the question, William. Well done, William, indeed. Yeah, Diogenes the Cynic is an absolute legend character. And it kind of, I think the antics he gets up to were totally designed to shock. He was a practical philosopher in that sense. He didn't just sit there and talk. He actually tried to demonstrate to people the kind of realities and the simplicities behind his thinking in a very good way. A great teacher, right? He was trying to take his high philosophical thinking and see, how can I demonstrate this to people in a very public and obvious way in the street? I'm going to go and do some things that demonstrate my philosophy, that there are no rules that can't be broken. So, William, thank you very much indeed. Diogenes the Cynic. But I would advise against you taking him as a role model, because as we all know, there are some rules that you have to follow, which are those laid down by your mum and dad. Okay, so there will be no weeing at home, William, or any other children out there listening, or adults for that matter. If you suddenly decide to copy Diogenes the Cynic, I would say please refrain and find some other way of proving your philosophical point about the mutability of traditions, customs and rules. James asks, have you ever had a Diogenes type character come and disturb your lectures? Thankfully, no. Kind of no one who's at least gone to that level of attempt to disturb. But of course, now that's probably tempting fate, isn't it? And we're going to get somebody coming in and doing something like that. So, William, who knows what you've started? But just remember, absolutely follow Diogenes the Cynic, but not when it comes to what your mum and dad say to you. So we're going to break off quickly from the questions. No defecation in public, please. Absolutely. I completely agree with you. It's too much. In the news, some of the things that have been happening in the news. So we've had a brilliant find, and you will have seen this. We put it on the Facebook page, but it was all over Twitter and also the news channels, and made another beautiful find from Pompeii. And the Reggio 5 excavations that have been going on. They're absolutely amazing. This is of a new fresco of gladiators tavern, kind of fighting, a fresco of gladiators fighting within what we think to be some kind of tavern scene, kind of in tavern space. So that's beautiful. You can see some great pictures of that on the Facebook page. Going back to 2600 BC, so quite far back to the Minoan era down on Crete, they found a new Minoan era skeleton of a female found intact on Crete. This is near in the Lassithi region on Crete, which is absolutely brilliant, and kind of that's currently being excavated and looked at by archaeologists. And then over in Egypt, kind of the stuff that comes out of Egypt is extraordinary. This time near Luxor, they found a huge cache of painted wooden coffins. So this was a thing that the particularly kind of was a tradition in the not too far, in the Greco-Roman phase of Egypt, shall we say. So kind of during the period of the Ptolemies that ended kind of through down to down to Cleopatra. We were talking about that. But yes, so at least 20 preserved wooden coffins with painted faces on the front of them, which is absolutely brilliant. And then from Croatia, we can move across to Croatia, and there we found a Roman chariot burial with horses has been found as well. Kind of this would have been the ancient Roman area of Pannonia, and this was a sort of a burial ritual during the Roman period in this area, where kind of the individual would be buried with their chariot, with their horses that were then and buried with them, as a symbol of their kind of wealth. So kind of absolutely kind of amazing kind of finds coming from all over the place. How could someone stoop so low, says Katie. Love it. Nicely done. David Elvin, please, no, I know, yes, I was about to flag this. 17th of January, I hope you've got it in your diaries. I'm doing a lecture about Troy at the British Museum to coincide with their exhibition. I hope you can come and join us there. The tickets are now on sale on the British Museum website, and the link is on the Facebook page. But please don't follow David's suggestion and come and be a Diogenes at that lecture. Thank you very much. That would not be appreciated, and you will be ejected in Achilles-like fashion. Yes. I will put on my best Achilles and chuck you out as fast as possible, particularly if you decide to defecate in the lecture hall. I also hope you won't be doing anything of like that at the other events that I'm about to flag to you. So this Saturday, if you are 16, 17, 18, thinking about what you want to do at university, thinking about classics, come and join us for our Warwick Open Day. I'm going to be there talking this Saturday, the 19th of October. Come and join us. Listen to some talks, different lectures, including by me, as well as some open sessions talking about our design of our courses and the atmosphere, and you can hear and meet our students as well. So it'd be really great if you can come to that. And then the next Sunday, the 20th, if you are in the Oxford area at the Ashmolean Museum, I'm talking as part of the festival that's going on kind of across Oxford at the moment, and we will be talking about ancient myths. So it's both musical and presentational, so you can listen to some fantastic music inspired by ancient myths, and then you can also come and hear me talk about ancient myths now and into the future. So that's at the Ashmolean Museum this Sunday. And then Paul Cartledge, who is a great kind of fan. I'm a huge fan of his, I should say. Will be giving a talk if you are anywhere near Dartford Grammar School, in their classics department. He's giving a talk on the 27th of January, so a little bit further down the field. Tickets are free. Get in touch with Dartford Grammar School directly. That's info@dartfordgrammarschool.org.uk, or you can get in touch via Twitter or via email, and you can get yourself a ticket to 10 things you really ought to know about democracy in ancient Greece. Two other things to flag with you. 21st of November, again, if you're a school student of any age, Key Stage 2, 3, 4, 5, come and join us for our Ancient Worlds Day. So Ben, age 9, come and join us. I hope you're coming, as well as William as well. Age 9, Ancient Worlds Day, which is run by our Warwick Classics Network in association with the A.G. Leventis Foundation, who very kindly sponsor our work. And we've got a jam-packed day full of amazing speakers coming from inside the university and indeed outside the university. So Natalie Haynes will be there, as well as a number of others who are talking to and thinking about the use of storytelling, linking to Key Stage 2 and 3 work, storytelling from antiquity and about antiquity, and then in the afternoon thinking about Key Stages 4 and 5 as well, and linking that into the syllabus for GCSE and AS. So do come and join us, 21st of November. Have a look for details on the Warwick Classics Network websites. That's warwick.ac.uk/WCN. And I've told you about my Troy lecture on the 17th of January, so very much hope you can come along and see that. Hello from Nicola from Oxford, hope to see you there. I will be there, look forward to it. A book to flag to you all, The Brothels of Pompeii, Sex, Class and Gender at the Margins of Roman Society by Sarah Levin Richardson, has just been published by Cambridge University Press. And Sarah Bond, who's been reviewing this, kind of says it's a really worthwhile book because it focuses in on the kind of one really kind of well-known purpose-built Roman brothel from Pompeii, and kind of takes it apart to understand kind of what we can understand about the trade as a result of this location. So that's definitely worth having a look at as well, and some excerpts of the book online that you can have a quick look at if you so desire. Hello everyone, so thank you for your questions while that was coming in. We have a couple of minutes to do one or two more questions. Now, I did say to you about architecture, didn't I? So let's grab that question about architecture. Hang on a second, I'll find it. And that came in from Mirinali Pandey, who was asking about the different Greek architectural orders. Okay, complex. So we have Doric. So that's the column that is sort of the planar one, if you like, Doric column, and that seems to emerge kind of in mainland Greece, as it were. And then you have the Ionic column, which has the sort of twirly flutes on either side. That seems to emerge over in the eastern part of the Aegean, kind of the eastern Greek world, and then obviously also through to Athens and spread through the rest of the Greek world. And then later on, you have the emergence of the Corinthian order, which is the one where the top of the column has all the kind of leaves, the acanthus leaves on them, and that Now that's an interesting one because one of the first places we see it is one of my favourite monuments in Athens, the Lysicrates Choragic monument in Athens. But we also see it up in Bassae, which is down in Peloponnese, up on the top of the mountain in Bassae, where there is the temple of Apollo Epikurios, Apollo the mercenary, 4th century temple. And while it's on the outside it looks very normal, on the inside it has half Ionic columns running down the inside of the temple, and then at one end, the sort of end where you might expect the cult statue of the god to be, it has one single Corinthian column as a sort of special one-off column. Elsie from Sorrento, thank you so much for tuning in. You were in Pompeii on Monday. You lucky devils, lucky devils. So Doric, Ionic and Corinthian are different kinds of column, but they seem to emerge in different parts of Greece and then obviously become kind of, they have sort of time periods when they're more or less popular. But they also link to what the upper entablature of a temple looks like. So if you have a Doric column, then you normally in the kind of upper part of a temple. Am I back? Yes, I'm live. There we go. Thank you. Sorry, something came over the phone and completely interrupted. You also have a series of metopes and triglyphs. So triglyphs are sort of 3 lines, and then a metope is a small carved square. And if you've got a Doric column, you have metopes and triglyphs. If you have Ionic columns, you tend not to have metopes and triglyphs. You have a continuous frieze, so a continuous sculpted frieze running around the whole building. But, so if those are the rules, the architectural rules, some temples muck those rules up entirely, and of course the Parthenon's a great example of that. So the most famous temple perhaps that there is, the Parthenon on the Acropolis, is a Doric temple in the sense that it has Doric columns, but it has metopes and triglyphs, but it also has a frieze. So basically the Parthenon is a great example of where the architects have gone, we want everything, and the people designing it kind of, we want everything on this temple, we want every ability to be able to show off our kind of money, our wealth, our sculptural expertise, everything, and so let's put it all in, let's jam it all into the temple together. So the Parthenon, perhaps the most famous, is the one who has kind of broken the rules. So there we go, kind of a little bit kind of a brief kind of introduction to Greek architecture and the Greek orders. Helesa says he's not paid the bill. Sorry if I've broken up. A phone call came in. I forgot to say no phone calls during this period to my phone, so that's probably why it was breaking up. So hopefully the person isn't too upset that I told them to go away until kind of the end of this session. But we are now, very sadly, at the end of our half hour. Now, next time, 2 weeks' time, Thursday the 31st of October, it's Halloween, which means we're going to dedicate the Q&A to stories of ghosts, ghouls, curses, and all other sorts of good Halloween type things. So put your thinking caps on, send in your questions over the next 2 weeks, all sorts of Halloween-y related questions, please, about the ancient Greek world, and we will kind of come prepared with your Halloween kit. If you can find a hat or two or a spider web or two to be able to join in the fun for a Halloween special coming to you on Thursday the 31st of October. That's when I'll next see you. But in the meantime, have an absolutely fantastic rest of the weekend, a fantastic couple of weeks in the meantime. Thank you so much indeed for tuning in and for your fantastic questions. Again, not enough time to get to answer all of them that have come in, but they will stay on the list. Do not worry in the slightest, and keep sending in your great thoughts, both sensible and non-sensible questions. And just remember, Diogenes the Cynic, he makes a good point, but you don't have to do it in the way that he did it. Okay? Thanks. Have a lovely weekend. Take care of yourselves. Bye.